Hi everyone, how are you? So I have received some comments regarding how I can help people apply to University of Manchester, and so I've made this list of tips or things that I think would help in your application. And I remember when I was applying for University of Manchester, there weren't any guidance videos like this. Maybe there are, but not specific to University of Manchester. There were people showing their portfolios, right? But nothing that really helped me a lot. So in this video, I'll be breaking down the whole application process in details in hopes that it will help you get a result that you want. So first of all, if you want to apply to a school in the UK, you have to apply through UCAS, which is a platform for you to apply up to 5 universities of your choice, and you don't have to submit like one application for each uni. You have to submit one application and you just choose the unis, the 5 unis that you want, and UCAS will help you send the applications to these unis. So the typical deadline for UCAS application is usually early or mid-January, but if you want to apply to Oxbridge, then I think the deadline is in October, and you can either apply to Cambridge or Oxford. You can't apply to both. So if you want to apply to one of these schools, make sure you do your research and also make an informed decision. So when you're filling out your application, you have to write a personal statement, and you have to fill in personal details, your IGCSE ratings, and your predicted grade as well. And you also need somebody to write a letter of recommendation for you. So you'll input the person's email, and UCAS will send like a request to them, and so you will not see this recommendation letter. So make sure you choose somebody that you trust and you know will give you a good recommendation. And if you want to apply to the University of Manchester, like architecture, the UCAS code for the course is K100, and the UCAS institution code is M20 for University of Manchester. So for me, I took A-levels for my entry requirements exam, but they also accept other kinds of exams like IB, or if you're studying in Europe, or if you're studying in other places which have like a unique testing system, they might accept that too. So make sure you send the school an email and ask if they accept this kind of testing results. But usually people in the UK do A-levels, and that's what I did as well. And the minimum requirement is A-levels for 3 subjects. So for University of Manchester, I don't think they have like a requirement on what kind of A-levels you need to have. So some people did take economics, some people took geography, some people took biology, but I think you have to have at least one subject that is maths, and other than that I don't think they have this requirement. And I think the baseline grade you need for University of Manchester is AAA for architecture. But since architecture is a relatively design-based course, you will need a portfolio, and sometimes if your portfolio is really good, they might even lower your requirements for these scores. So maybe they'll give you AAB instead of AAA if you have a really good portfolio. And if you take A-levels arts or maybe design, you might have like kind of beneficial advantage, not necessarily for the application process, but it will help you develop like a more coherent flow and ideas when you're actually in architecture school. And for University of Manchester, they did not ask us for like a PDF of the portfolio. They asked us to make a website. So they asked us to make a website on this website page, and there is a list of questions you need to answer, and they also ask us to upload some of our artwork onto the website. So it's basically like designing an artistic architecture website, which you can pitch yourself to the people who are in charge of the application process. And basically I just put the works that were originally in my portfolio onto the website, like individually, and they want to have like a paragraph, like short paragraph, to describe each of the art piece, and also there are some questions. So for example, I think one of them was asking, oh, who was my favorite architect? And you don't have to create an art piece for that, you just have to answer that question, but of course make sure you're answering in like a very concise way, and also using terms or using ways to express that you have this kind of design process or this kind of architecture admiration. Okay, I'm looking at the website I created before, and one of the questions asked was a statement discussing why I want to study architecture at MSA, and then you have to answer that. And then another one is a statement about my favorite architect on building, and then a work of architecture which I would like to experience in person, my own review of a recent exhibition or building that I have visited, and then basically it's like the artwork that I've chosen to include in my portfolio. So I'll just give you like a brief overview of what I've written, so you can have like an idea of what you want to write as well. So for the first question, a statement discussing why I want to study architecture. So I talked about how good MSA is, and then how good the lectures are, basically, because you have to do research first. You have to do research on the school before you apply. So these are the things that I actually read on the website, and I also followed some of the pages on Instagram, so I kind of know how it works. So I know that they have a joint course between University of Manchester and Manchester Metropolitan University, and then they also have this student body called MSSA, which is like a student association in architecture, and it's one of the largest architecture society in the UK, and I also included that, and also included how there are a lot of opportunities available at MSA, because I can use both University of Manchester and Manchester Metropolitan University's resources. Okay, now the second one is a statement about my favorite architect or building, and I chose to talk about an architect, and I talked about Frank Gehry. And in the paragraph I actually wrote about how I appreciated Frank Gehry's style, how bold and dramatic use of shapes he has, and then also the use of colors, so it's not like the usual kind of mundane or ordinary architecture, but it's a very bold use of expressive shapes and sizes, which impressed me a lot, and how his vision and passion for architecture is shown through his work. And I think it is what architecture is about, showing people the vision of the architect and how the structure can actually speak to the people. And the third one is a work of architecture which I would like to experience in person, and I think I wrote about, yeah, the Milan Cathedral. I actually visited the Milan Cathedral a long time ago, but I don't remember it that much. That's why I would like to experience it in person again. And I talked about how it's like the largest Gothic cathedral in the world, and described the architecture there and how I want to experience all this in person and how great it would be, because just by looking at pictures you can't replace the actual feeling of being in presence of this great architecture. And I kind of put that in the answer as well. And the last question they want us to answer is my own review of a recent exhibition or building that I have visited. And I don't remember answering this, but yeah, I talked about the Morpheus Hotel in Macau, which is work from I almost said Gigi Hadid, no, Zaha Hadid, and it was a really great piece of architecture, especially when you're inside. It just makes the user experience feel so good. And I did some research on this hotel, and it was basically inspired by jade, like the Chinese jade, and then there was this giant exoskeleton, and then the smooth glass, and it's very contemporary. And this is built recently, I think, not very recently, but it's a relatively new piece of architecture, and that's why I talked about it and talked about the different styles. And I actually planned out the different types of building I have talked about in these few questions, because when I talk about the architecture I want to experience, I talked about a more old kind of style, so they know that I have range and I know the words. Talking about Gothic architecture, but then when I talk about more contemporary kind of architecture, I also have the vocabulary, and I am also able to show that I have this kind of admiration for different types of architecture, so I'm not just blindly worshiping one kind of style. So you want to kind of show that you have this diverse range and also diverse use of vocabulary, and also show this process of what you think about this architect or this piece of architecture, and you have to show them that in answering these questions below. And when you do the portfolio, I actually didn't do this, but I think it would be great if you actually include projects that actually show like a coherent flow. So for me, I just did one piece of artwork and I talked about it. But if you had like a coherent flow of artwork, or maybe if you're talking about a problem in this world and you're using this kind of art piece to, you know, create like a sarcastic statement, or you're trying to solve this problem, I think it's actually better than just creating an art piece and talking about it, because I think what architecture is about is also about solving problems. So if you have this piece of artwork that can provide solutions to the world's problems, not necessarily provide solutions, but like allow the viewer to know that you're aware of the situation and you want to make a change, and then showing all the processes, it's actually much more useful than just putting one piece of artwork on the board. And if you want to apply for Manchester, this is really all I have. I don't think they have interviews, at least not, I didn't receive one, so I directly just received the offer after submitting the portfolio. And make sure you have plenty of time to put the portfolio together, because whatever time frame you have in mind, it's going to take way longer, so you don't want to put it off till the very last minute. Although when I was putting the application together, I did almost put it in the last minute, because there was so much going on, like A-levels and applications, personal statements, portfolio, like it was all like a jumble, a mess. So make sure you have like this period of time where you're setting it in stone. Okay, I will put the portfolio together, because organizational skills is very important when you're in architecture school. And if you don't have organizational skills, it's just all gonna go to shit. Yeah, so if you have any more questions, do comment below and I'll try to answer them. And yeah, I hope this video helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.